Let's get into some of the most mind-blowing ways the rich avoid taxes. Ways that really work. Alright, first up, let's talk about a classic, almost legendary move. Offshore tax havens and shell companies. You've probably heard of places like Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, or Luxembourg. These aren't just pretty places for a vacation. They're financial hubs that offer tiny or even zero taxes on certain kinds of income or assets. Here's how it often goes down. Super rich folks and massive international companies set up legal entities, sometimes just shell companies that only exist on paper, in these havens. Then they transfer ownership of their pricey stuff, stocks, fancy real estate, valuable patents, even yachts and private jets, to these offshore companies. These places often have super strict financial privacy laws, making it tough for other countries' tax authorities to figure out who really owns what offshore. Next up is a strategy so slick in its simplicity, yet so incredibly powerful for avoiding taxes that it's a go-to for keeping wealth in the family for generations. It's often called buy, borrow, die. Wealthy folks invest in things that grow in value. We're talking stocks in booming companies, pricey real estate, fancy art, or private equity. The big idea is these assets are expected to be worth a lot more down the line. And here's the kicker. In most tax systems, like the US, the profit you make as these assets grow, capital gains, isn't taxed until you actually sell them. So their paper fortune can skyrocket and no tax is due. Now these billionaires need cash, right? For their lifestyles, new investments, or to fund their businesses. But instead of selling those assets that have shot up in value and getting hit with a massive capital gains tax bill, they borrow money from banks. They use their huge stock portfolios or real estate as collateral. And guess what? Loans aren't considered taxable income, so they can get their hands on billions in cash, completely tax-free. When the wealthy individual passes away, those assets, now worth a fortune, usually go to their heirs. And in many countries, including the US right now, these assets get something called a step-up in basis. This means the original price the billionaire paid for the asset gets updated or stepped up to whatever it's worth when they die. Let me make that clearer. Say a billionaire bought stock for $10 million and it's worth $1 billion when they pass. All that $990 million in growth, which they never paid tax on while they were alive, basically gets wiped clean for income tax. The heirs inherit the stock with a new starting value of $1 billion. If they turn around and sell it the next day for $1 billion, they pay zero capital gains tax. All those huge profits made over decades, sometimes generations, can totally escape income tax. Plus, some industries like real estate or oil and gas already come with some really generous tax breaks. These can let even super profitable businesses show very little taxable income. Real estate depreciation, for example, lets owners deduct a part of a property's value each year, even if the property is actually going up in value. The mind-boggling complexity of these international company structures, often with dozens, even hundreds of linked entities scattered across different countries, makes it incredibly hard for any single country's tax people to see the full picture and challenge these setups. It's like a global shell game, played with billions. Now, a trust is basically a legal setup where assets are held by one person or entity, the trustee, for someone else, the beneficiary. Regular folks might use trusts for basic estate planning, but for the super rich, trusts can become these super complex machines for avoiding taxes and protecting assets. By moving things like property, investments, or company shares into trusts, especially those irrevocable ones set up offshore, wealthy people can essentially take those assets out of their own name. That means they're no longer part of their taxable estate in their home country. This can massively cut down on inheritance or estate taxes when they pass away. These trusts can be designed in unbelievably complicated ways, sometimes with layers upon layers of trusts and companies spread across multiple countries. Now, it's pretty important to understand the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. What we've been talking about, tax avoidance, is using legal ways and loopholes to pay less tax. Tax evasion, on the other hand, is illegal. That's when you're lying, hiding income, or making false claims. While a lot of these strategies we've looked at skate in a legal gray area, or you could say they break the spirit of the law, they're often technically by the book. But things might be slowly starting to shift. More people around the world are aware of these issues and are pushing for change. So let's quickly go over those mind-blowing ways the rich really cut their tax bills again. They use offshore tax havens and shell companies to hide assets and profits. They're masters of the buy, borrow, die strategy, living off loans and passing on fortunes where the growth is never taxed. Their companies use fancy footwork like profit shifting, transfer pricing, and routing IP through havens to pay less tax globally. They use complex trusts, often offshore, to shield their wealth and cut down on estate taxes. And they play the treaty shopping game to get the best deals from international tax agreements. These aren't just simple tricks you can pull off on a whim. They're super complex, expensive strategies that take full advantage of the confusing bits and loopholes in tax laws around the world. And the craziest part, most of it is shockingly legal. So, what do you think about all this? Do these strategies seem fair? Should the laws be different? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. And hey, if you found this look into the world of big money and tax tricks eye-opening, do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and ding that notification bell so you won't miss out when Modern Monarch explore more of the systems that run our world.